Harigaru,
Hi Sagar.
yeah, when we were discussing about performance and preparation, you
Right.
said skill,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Then in preparation we have skill, then physical.
Right.
You
And-
also said mental.
Yes.
Okay. This, mental interference of ourselves in our
Right.
performance. You said it will reflect.
Yes.
Could you please elaborate on?
Yeah, it's a very
this
good
aspect?
question.
Yeah.
And all our performances,
Mhm.
all our performances, we all work very hard, for exams, for performances, for the big matches, for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the big stage, we somehow fumble.
Mm-hmm.
So our performance there, then we say, oh, we prepared so hard, but we couldn't do it. So there's something wrong with me. So there's nothing wrong with you as such. There's one area which you've not prepared on, which is primarily the mental aspect. So there is a very nice performance formula. It says performance is equal to your potential minus interference.
Okay.
So you have great potential, you worked on it, you built on it. But then on the big stage when you have to perform, there's a lot of interference.
Okay.
So where does this interference come from? So normally this interference does not come from the outside. A lot of this interference comes from within us, in terms of our own doubts, our own belief systems, our own whatever, right? So this is addressed very well in this book called Inner Game of Tennis by Timothy Gallowey, where he very nicely, he's a very good tennis player who became a tennis coach, and through his coaching he's realized certain things about how to perform to potential. So he says, when you are doing something, when you're performing, right, every time you act, or especially when you're acting on stage, somebody inside you seems to be saying, hey, that was such a bad thing, how could you do something like this, right? Somebody is constantly criticizing you, right? You are, on one hand, you're executing what you're doing, you're performing, and on the other hand, there is another person sitting inside you who is constantly criticizing you, doubting you, putting doubt in your head. Do you think you can do this? You didn't do that very well. Last time you didn't do well. Last time you failed.
You're not good at that.
Yes, and this voice is not coming from the outside. It's a continuous dialogue that's going on inside. So what Timothy says is, he'll call that the self one. The self one is the critic or the judge who's sitting inside you and continuously criticizing. The self two is your actual performer, the guy who's actually executing whatever you have learned, you're trying to execute. So this is the potential. Self two is the potential. Self one is the critic and judge. So you have to, basically it's very simple. Now to get self two to work at, it's difficult. If I'm trying to do something and somebody is constantly telling me, you're not good, you're not good, you're not good, you're not good,
Yeah.
it is going to affect my performance unless I know how to shut it out. Right? So primarily to help me, and most of us actually get affected by the slightest interference. So if I want to perform at potential, I have to keep myself to, at full potential, and Quieten Self one. That's the formula I need to adopt.
Yeah.
Right? Now what? So there's a formula that he's given when you actually go into a performance. The formula is very simple. 4 steps. The first step is be non-judgmental. Zero judgment. He says, don't even say you're good, don't say you're bad. Just focus on the process. If you're doing something, just focus on the process. That's all. Don't say this is good, this is bad. Even if you made a mistake, also don't judge it. If you've done something well, also don't judge it. Just focus on the process. Like in tennis, he says, just focus on the ball. Give yourself something to do, which is only process. Focus on the main thing to do. Right? So that is one. Complete lack of judgment. And this is something you need to practice. Second thing he says is, to help you do the right thing more often than the wrong thing, create feelmage. He calls it feelmage, which means feeling plus image.
Okay.
Create an image of you when you have done something extremely well. Same thing. I've done this very well. I've played this shot very well. I've done this well. this exam I did very well, whatever performance, this performance I did very well. Create that your best performance feeling, image and feeling, and recreate that memory in your mind.
Yeah.
So give your mind to work on that. So your self-2 is now focused on working on that particular feeling image, which he calls feel image. So your mind has, so what he says here is your mind is more receptive to images. Images, numbers have a bigger impact than words.
Okay.
So seeing yourself, and now today it's easy because you all have videos. You can quickly take a video and you can watch yourself and say, hey, in my best performance, this is it. So keep playing those videos, and that you can play. So
Also the critic or the judge gets weaker.
Yes, while you're doing this, the critic is getting weaker. Now, the third one actually is exactly what you're saying, which is basically, the second part, you have to actually be very clear that you get the same feeling along with the image. You have to feel that, right? Then you go to the third step, which is quieten your self-one. So how do you quiet your self-one? Self-one is already in doubt. So what he does is, it's almost like giving a child something to distract it. So what he says is, give it something to keep it busy, right? Like like a lot of performers actually, they sing. Like we heard of how Dhoni or Sehwag or some of these players, they say they sing while they're batting.
Yeah.
Which means they're keeping the self-one out. While they're doing singing, or some people count still. While you're walking, they count steps, or while you're running, you count steps. So your self-one is not having time to, you've given it some toy to play with.
Okay.
Right? So you find what is your method, and you quieten self-one. Right? Basically, it will be something to do physically. So try and find what is good for you.
Okay.
And quieten self-one. And the last part is trust self-2. Then allow self-2 to, whether you hit a bad shot, whatever. First, no judgment. Just go back again and
Practice. Yeah.
same process you follow.
Okay.
No judgment, feel image, quieten self. The more you do it, the better your performance is going to become. Now, this one important thing that he says, which is basically that all stress is when you're related to the outcome. When you're worried about the outcome. So all this, what he's saying is, you don't focus on the outcome, focus on the process. Right? That way you won't have stress, you're busy doing something, and you're allowing yourself to do, cutting out interference, and allowing yourself to do the best you can. That is how you manage to give a performance to potential.
Okay. The mental interferences definitely will disappear.
Yes, right. You have a process now to address mental interference.
Very nice, Harigaru. It's very, very, very important.
Yes,
Because
very important.
most of the people fail it. This mental interference level.
Right,
only.
exactly. We don't address it.
Yeah.
We think it's a natural thing. It can be addressed by practice, like anything else.
Super, Harigaru. Thank you so much. This is fantastic.
Thank you, Sagar.